Okay, let's dive straight into this explainer. Picture this. We're joining Emma and James, two everyday Australians catching the train home after work in Melbourne. And like a lot of us at the end of the month, they're just casually scrolling through their phones, right? Looking at their monthly expenses, checking their payslips, and having a bit of a chat about their long-term plans. It's exactly the kind of conversation happening on trains and in living rooms all over the country. So as they review those payslips, Emma brings up a really relatable point. She tells James that she sees her superannuation accumulating every single month. I mean, it's right there on the screen. But she admits she feels entirely disconnected from the actual mechanics of it. She knows it's for her retirement, sure, but she's never really stopped to understand how the whole system is actually built to support her later in life. For her, it just kind of feels like a black box. Money goes in and hopefully one day money comes out. And James, well, he replies that he's wondered the exact same thing. He always sees those compulsory super contributions on his payslip, but realizes he's never fully grasped how the entire retirement system actually works. During the chat, James remembers a colleague at work who recently mentioned setting up something called a self-managed superannuation fund, or an SMSF. And as the train rattles on through the city, James says that hearing about this only raised even more questions for him. He asked Emma, if super already exists and our employers just pay into it automatically, why did Australia create something like an SMSF within the system in the first place? Emma absolutely agrees. She notes it feels a bit unusual that there are multiple layers within the retirement system, and she wonders why some people choose to become so heavily involved. They both reflect on how many of us hear terms like super, retirement, investing, or property without fully understanding how the whole system actually fits together. James hits the nail on the head when he concludes that before they get excited about new ideas or make any assumptions, they probably first need to understand why Australia designed the retirement system the way it did.
So let's look at the big picture, why superannuation exists.
It all traces back to one fundamental goal. Since the introduction of the age pension way back in 1909, the ultimate objective of Australia's retirement framework has always been to ensure older Australians have adequate financial support once they stop working. Superannuation was designed as a system to help people proactively save for that retirement throughout their working life. By doing this, it effectively reduces our financial dependence on the government later in life. Understanding this goal, well, that's really the master key to making sense of everything else on your payslip.
Which brings us to the 3 pillars of retirement.
To actually achieve that massive national goal we just talked about, the framework shares the heavy lifting. As you'll see here, it's a really balanced approach between government support, mandatory savings driven by your employment, and optional personal savings. Let's quickly break these down so we know exactly what we're looking at. Okay, here are your 3 pillars. First, you have the age pension. This is government-funded and means-tested, acting as a crucial safety net for eligible retirees. Second, you have the super guarantee, or SG. These are those compulsory contributions you see on your payslip that your employer absolutely must pay into a regulated super fund during your working life. And the third pillar, that's voluntary savings. This includes any extra personal contributions you choose to make into your super or personal investments you hold outside of super entirely. Together, these 3 pillars form the solid foundation of Australian retirement. All right, zooming in, the SMSF structure.
So where does a self-managed super fund fit into all of this? Well, within the broader superannuation system, an SMSF is simply an alternative legal structure for accumulating those retirement benefits. Specifically, it's a private trust structure, and it's limited to a maximum of 6 members. The reason this legal structure exists is to cater to Australians who genuinely want to be more directly involved in how their retirement savings are managed. Notice the contrast here between these two approaches. Over on the standard retail or industry super fund side, it's generally a hands-off experience. The professional fund managers do all the heavy lifting, and as a member, you might just choose from a menu of broad investment options. An SMSF, on the other hand, is completely hands-on. It provides greater flexibility and allows members to choose exactly what assets the fund will hold. But here is the major catch. In an SMSF, the members are also the trustees. That means they are the ones who are legally responsible for making the specific investment decisions and managing the entire fund.
And while it sounds like a lot of work, and honestly it is, this is a very significant part of the Australian financial landscape. To put it into perspective, as of June 2021, there were roughly 598,000 SMSFs operating in Australia. Collectively, they held approximately 25% of all total superannuation assets in the country. So while it's an alternative structure, it's highly utilized by those seeking that specific level of involvement. Now for the reality, where control meets compliance. Having an SMSF does not mean unlimited freedom to do whatever you want with that money. Not at all. This is a highly regulated environment. Perhaps the absolute most important legislative requirement in this entire framework is something called the sole purpose test. Under the law, every single decision, action, and investment made within an SMSF must be exclusively for the sole purpose of funding retirement for its members, or for their dependents if they pass away. You absolutely cannot use an SMSF to provide current lifestyle perks. For example, there's no way you can use your SMSF to buy a holiday house that you and your family vacation in. The sole focus must remain strictly on retirement benefits.
So the crucial takeaway here is that this desire for greater participation comes with some incredibly heavy compliance obligations. Trustees must meet strict reporting rules, they have to appoint an approved independent auditor every single year, they're required to maintain highly detailed records, report the true market value of their assets, and, importantly, trustees absolutely cannot receive any remuneration for their services to the fund. It's a very serious legal responsibility.
And the regulators take these rules incredibly seriously. If these strict administrative and legal duties are ignored, mismanaged, or if that sole purpose test is breached, the consequences are severe. Trustees can face substantial personal monetary fines. The fund itself can lose its compliance status and its tax concessions, or individuals can be disqualified from ever acting as a trustee again. It's a structure built exclusively for those willing to take on significant legal obligations.
Let's start connecting the pieces. As their train finally pulls into their station in Melbourne, James's initial thought turned out to be spot on. The SMSF isn't some magic wealth creation loophole. It exists simply to offer an option for more hands-on involvement for those who really want it. But it sits strictly within the boundaries of Australia's broader three-pillar system. It is bound by ironclad rules focused solely on retirement. For Emma and James, the whole system makes a whole lot more sense now. They realize that whether you're in a standard fund or an SMSF, the end goal is exactly the same: reducing financial dependence and securing your future after you stop working. So the next time you look at that super contribution on your payslip, ask yourself, do you know how your specific retirement puzzle pieces fit together? And are you taking the right steps today to secure your tomorrow?
This content is general and educational. It is not financial advice. If you already have an SMSF or want to better understand your compliance responsibilities, speak with the team at Wendy Super Accounting.